What's up, everybody? I'm Dusty Grant, your host of the Sprout and Dusty Show. Unfortunately, Sprout is not going to be able to make it here tonight. He has a gig in Ark City, Kansas. He's en route to. We thought he was going to be able to get there on time, but he was unable to do so. So I will be flying the spaceship tonight. I got an awesome guest tonight. It's going to be a super interesting show, super fun show. I got a lot of history with this guy. We've been all over the place together, and we've had some pretty cool experiences together. He's a very knowledgeable and interesting guy, so I can't wait to bring him on. Next week, Sprout will be handling the show solo, and then the following week we'll be back on the normal schedule. We know things have been up and down a little bit, but with us, you get a little bit of that. So we're both traveling musicians. We both record. We both play shows and we do all that type of stuff. So you might see from time to time, we might have to mix up the lineup a little bit to accommodate schedules and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that we don't love you guys, and that doesn't mean that we're not taking this show seriously. It's just Sprout had some business to handle tonight. We're going to let him handle his business. I'm going to handle this business, and that's that. As always, this show is brought to you by Big Fish Bail Bonds. They're the #1 bail bondsman in Wichita. You can call 316-262-4100, 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have your loved ones wake up at home. Big Fish Bail Bonds. Hey, Jenny, how you doing? Just saying hi to Jenny there. I'd also like to remind you guys, start watch parties, share the show, help us get the word out. That always helps a lot. So, I'd appreciate it if you guys could share. This is the first time I've done the show solo, so I'm excited about it. I'm going to do my best. I wanted to start off. I actually had a live performance this week. Excuse me. I actually had a live performance this week. I played at the Crown Uptown Theater here in Wichita. That place is absolutely beautiful. It felt so good to get back on stage again. I had my friends, Buana and Shane from Rise Again. Buana's actually been on the show before. And we just went up there and we just had a killer time. We left it all out there. It was a really emotional performance. We were on point. The venue was beautiful. They treated us like royalty. And those are the types of gigs that I play music for. You might play 5 or 6 gigs in a row that are duds or gigs that are, not ideal, or you might not feel well or something like that. And leading up to this show, I definitely didn't feel well. I was fighting bronchitis. I got some altitude sickness when I was up in Colorado, all those fires up there. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. But as I was building up and preparing for the show, I was noticing I was getting sicker. I was coughing up some blood, and sorry if that's an overshare, but we share a lot on this show. But I was coughing up some blood. I was short on breath. I was having some stuff, and I went to the doctor, and he's like, you've got bronchitis bad. So they gave me a Z-Pack, and I think that was I want to say that was Wednesday of last week. So I took the Z-Pack. It was 5 days long, and I finally just started feeling better pretty much right before the show. And the timing couldn't have been better. So we had an awesome performance, and it was a great time. For those of you out there that came to the show to support it, or if you watched the live stream, thank you so much. Buana and Shane, love you guys. Thank you guys for joining me there. Without further ado, I'm going to bring our guest on, Trent Schoenhals of the Thunder Underground. He is a podcaster. He works on some tours. He does a lot of things in the music scene and stuff like that. So he's a great guest for this show. Trent Schoenhals, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Thank you very much. Good to be here. And you said my last name right. So
well, yeah, I mean, I've spent enough time with you to where I think I've got it kind of down now. We've for the people that don't know out there that are listening to the show, Trent drove on the on the Booze Bars and Guitars tours that Sprout and I did. Trent helped us with merch and just helped us manage on the road and just kind of kept us headed the right direction. So Trent does a lot of that, and he did that for us. And Trent and I have got to know each other pretty well. So if you have any questions for Trent about touring with me, if you have any questions for Trent about touring with Sprout, if you have any questions for me, anything like that, guys, please interact with the show. Please ask questions. Please, pick our brains, help us take this in the direction you want to take the show, guys. So yeah, we hope to get you involved. And without further ado, Trent, why don't you tell the Sprout and Dusty faithful a little bit about the podcast and what you do, and a little bit about your journey.
Okay. Well, Thunder Underground is a podcast that me and my buddy Jason Wood started May of 2015, so almost 5.5 years ago. We're getting close to 300 episodes. Our one this week was 285. Wow. So it's a general podcast as far as music goes. I mean, there's not a specific subject. It's just we interview whoever we can interview, basically. We do a lot of local musicians to us, which is Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then, if a band's coming through on tour, obviously not right now, but when that was happening, we'd interview them that way. And now we've been doing a lot on Skype and phone as well for the past year.
Something I've been noticing with some podcasts and some radio shows that I listen to is it seems like you're seeing a lot of these shows get a lot more guests, and it seems like artists are a little, like, even actors, comedians, artists, whoever you might, whatever genre of entertainment they're in, but you're seeing those people are a little more willing to get on the Skypes and to get on the lives and to get on these things to kind of connect with their fans and try to help get the word out about projects and stay connected. I know this podcast is literally the reason Sprout and I started this podcast, was to stay connected with our people, even when we can't be out there on the road with them. But are you noticing that you're getting more guests now? Are they easier to access now that they're not touring and they're home board, or is it harder to get them now that they're not on the road and you're not hitting up their manager or whatever?
At first, I think it seemed easier the first couple, like April, May.
Yeah.
Whenever all this kind of was first starting. But now it's like it feels like it's kind of back to the way it was.
Yeah.
But it's still like, for instance, in April and May, we recorded like, I think 20 or 22 interviews over the span of less than 2 months, like a month and a half. And usually we'd do like 3 or 4 a month, so, I mean, we would just like line them up on one day of the week and record like 3 or 4.
So all your podcasts are pre-recorded. They're not live.
Yeah. The only thing we've done live is we've done Facebook Live, but that's separate from the podcast episodes.
Right.
And yeah, everything is, like sometimes we got to where we record an interview and it doesn't come out for 2 months if we're that backed up. But usually when we record, with an interview or whatever, it's up within 1 or 2 weeks.
Nice. So do you guys have a bunch in the hopper right now? You got a bunch of episodes banked, or are you back in scramble mode trying to book people for the show again?
Well, no, like I said, clear up in like June and July, we had a lot banked. And then now about a week ago, we were down to 0. And then in the past week, we recorded 3. So we've got 3 in the can right now.
Nice. Any guests that are coming up that you can tell us about, or you don't want to reveal them yet, or who you guys getting?
The next 3 that we've got, or that already recorded, is Jeff Carlson. He fronts the Jeff Carlson band. It's kind of like a melodic rock.
Okay.
Like an old school classic rock kind of sound.
Yeah.
And then we also did one with the front man for a band out of Belgium called Nasty. And it's a hardcore band. And then we did one with a guy named Zach Bear, who's a musician, but he also owns a company called Venue and a company called Disc Live. When you'd go to shows and you could buy the CD when you're leaving, or buy a thumb drive of the show you just saw.
Yeah.
It's that guy's company. But,
oh, cool.
But he's also got a company called Venue that you would probably be really interested in, because they have a software they set up that is meant to keep ASCAP and BMI accountable for actually paying artists for every single stream that happens in a bar or a venue.
Oh, wow.
Because as you know now, if a Dusty Grant song gets played in Idaho, you probably won't get paid for it, and that money just go into ASCAP's slush fund or whatever. But so,
and that's something that I've taken a little more seriously. And now we're going to get a little music business nerdy here. But I mean, if anyone that's tuning in and anybody that knows Trent or I knows, you're probably going to get a little bit of that anyway. But this year I focused quite a bit. I was approached by a licensing company for one of my songs, and they sent me a contract and an offer, and I actually signed up for I signed the deal and I took the deal. It ended up being squandered because of the COVID thing. I guess what they were going to try to do is they were going to try to sell my song to Netflix series, but the Netflix series, nobody was filming anything new. You know what I mean? So their business model shut down and they were kind of in like a beta mode. So they hit me up and they're like, we're sorry, we can't do anything with this now. This deal is like basically off the table. So that was something that I was super excited about. But it didn't end up going through, which was a huge disappointment for me, to be honest with you. I didn't pick up my guitar for about a week after that. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. One good thing happens to me, it gets taken away, and after canceling a bunch of gigs, I was getting like super disenfranchised with the whole thing. But it did force me to get into my BMI and set up my publishing company and all that type of stuff. And I can honestly tell you, I spent $150 to set up my publishing company, to do everything legit. I've got all my stuff registered. I've got all my stuff submitted. Everything is legit to where I'm getting the credit for publishing and performance and everything. And I got to be honest with you, Trent, I have not seen one additional penny since I've set that up. So I imagine that service might be useful to me, because I'm signed up through BMI. And I've tried, you try to change something with them and it takes 6 months for them to respond to you. Right. And as an artist who's trying to grow their music and they're trying to, just cradle any revenue stream you possibly can, anything you can, any little puddle of revenue that you can keep in your hand to like sustain your business. It's like, it's what you're trying to do at the level that I'm at. And no, I'm not seeing those BMI checks coming at all. The only thing I ever see anything for is distributions for royalties on like Spotify and stuff like that, which is peanuts.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully that gets better in the coming years as well, because it sounds like there's initiatives in the works and stuff. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that it looks like it's heading in a better direction for musicians and songwriters.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, I don't know that I still don't think it will pay any of our bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? I still don't think it will pay for a recording session or for guitar strings or for new cables or anything like that. I mean, even on like the largest years of my career for streaming, which is, the current state that I'm in, it's still like, it might buy me a couple sets of guitar strings, and I burn through fucking 30 sets of guitar strings a year. So
yeah,
it's like, it's not really defraying the costs is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. So those of you that buy merch and come to shows, thank you.
Yeah.
Because you guys are truly the lifeblood. I mean, my position on the streaming services a little bit lately has changed. I used to think they were just like the Nazi regime, and I railed against them, but I actually have found that it has been a great way to get my music heard by new ears. Yeah. So that is a value to me, whether I want to admit it or not. My 5 largest markets aren't even my hometown on streaming, so it's a completely like different facet of your little music business, I'm finding. I know there's a lot of people resisting it, but I think artists that aren't embracing that and using it for the positives are kind of selling themselves short, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, what do I really know? I mean, I'm not getting paid big bucks to do it or anything like that, but it seems to be a great way to get it out there without having to play, 300 shows.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of used it that way myself in the past, where if it's a band I wasn't familiar with, I'm like, I'm not going to go out and pay for something I haven't even heard. You know, and with Spotify, you can at least listen to a few songs and think, I dig this, and then go buy the music from the artist,
Yeah. And I think that I've seen some stuff where like vinyl is getting a lot. Obviously there's a huge resurgence of vinyl. I think we've even talked about it on this show a little bit, but I think that's where some of that's coming from. People are finding artists. And I know once I become like hooked on an artist, or once that artist endears himself to me, I don't know where that happens, but it does happen for me. And then once I'm in that zone with that artist, I'll buy their stuff. I'll go on on their website, buy a shirt, buy a CD, buy a poster, buy a freaking tapestry for my wall, or whatever it is, a koozie if money's tight, whatever it is. Once an artist gets in that zone with me, then I'm willing to spend the money on the merch. It's kind of weird how that happens, but I imagine that's what's happening for a lot of artists right now.
Yeah.
Have you heard anybody else talking about that at all? Have they noticed that their merch sales have picked up even though they're not touring? Have their fans been kicking in for them from all these other artists that you're talking to? Are they saying that, or is everybody struggling that you're talking to?
That's a good question, because that's something I haven't even thought about asking them as far as merch goes.
Yeah.
And no one's really brought it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to, people around here on the local level, but, most our interviews with, national touring bands or whatever, it's just something I haven't even thought of bringing up.
Yeah.
But I might start that.
What are the artists around Tulsa saying? How is everything holding up for them down there? Because things are pretty open down there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, open in the sense that, yeah, pretty much everything's open. But as far as shows go, that's really just started in the past month or so.
How are those being attended that you're seeing?
I haven't been to any of them.
Okay.
Personally.
So that tells you.
But from what I've heard from people that have been to them, several of them have been well attended and several of them haven't. So it sounds like any other year.
Yeah.
Because, from experience, how a show, you could go and there could be like 18 people and then the next show could have 180 people. So,
yeah. And that's a weird thing. Like, yeah. I can never really figure that out. I can never really put my finger on it where, I mean, I know the basic game plan that I want to run to promote shows, to try to get people to shows. But there's some nights where I put every ounce of effort I possibly have into it, and it's a complete disappointment. You know what I mean? But then I don't know what I did differently from the other nights where I had success bringing people. Why didn't I? Well, there might have been 5 other shows. There might have been a national show. There might have been a hockey game. There might have been a, whatever it is. It's almost impossible. People are like, you need to pick dates where there's nothing else going on for your shows. I'm like, when is that?
Right. And how do you do that months in advance,
Yeah. Yeah. How do you do that? Yeah. How do you do that when there's nothing else going on? And half the stuff you get offered is last minute or short notice stuff. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is at this level sometimes. And I don't know how willing I'm going to be to take short notice stuff right now, because I don't necessarily know that a ton of people are super excited about going out for live music. I know there are some diehards for sure out there that want to see shows, and the ones I've played, they've been there. But as far as getting those casuals out and that type of stuff, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I guess it's going to just take some shows, and you're going to have to take it on the chin a little bit to kind of find out. Yeah. Hugo Hernandez is in a band called Ether, and he's in a punk band called the Merkins, and they travel all over the Midwest. They're a killer band, and they've got a podcast as well. But I've seen Hugo, especially in the last few weeks, it seems like they've had some stuff that they were promoting pretty hard that ended up getting canceled or things like that. And they're a band that I've been watching like the last few weeks, and I'm like, God, that sucks. Yeah. I mean, I know how it feels. I canceled 15 or 20 shows, and I've got nothing, I've got no live performances booked anywhere at any time right now. I have none. And it's been a long time since I could say I haven't had something on the books to be working on, to be promoting on, because that's something that I always try to do. I always try to have little carrots for myself to keep me working. You know what I mean? I always try to stay booked, and I always try to have to keep that momentum going. And right now it's like, no shows booked, no studio time booked. I'm trying to book some studio time right now, and I'm getting close on that, I think. But I have no shows booked. I've been offered a couple that I couldn't take. And that's just where I sit right now. You know what I mean? Or
are you planning to book them, or are you just kind of laying low to see how everything pans out for a bit, or what?
I'm honestly going to lay low, to be honest, like my business strategy, and I don't like to give away everything that I always do, but my strategy right now is my strategy right now is to take the good opportunities that come and kind of just lay low on everything else. As far as me booking deadheads to, Norman, Oklahoma, or booking deadheads to Dallas, Texas, or booking deadheads to Omaha, Nebraska on a weekend trying to gamble just to see, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just not going to take the risk, because it's hard enough when things are popping off and the market's super robust that right now, how do you know? You might not even know what the regulations are going to be the week you go up there to play. So how do you even promote it?
Right. And it's
just
different in every state, which makes it hard as well.
different in every state. It's enforced differently in every county. I've been a little closer to COVID than I've wanted to be the last few weeks here. And I've learned some really interesting stuff about the testing and all that type of stuff. And I don't want to get into like a big COVID conspiracy show or anything like that. But it just makes me reluctant, because I don't know how something's going to be enforced from one place to the next. What do we have to do? And then you put money into graphic design, or you put your own sweat equity into graphic design, or you do all that type of stuff, or you've got a rack full of merch like I've got sitting behind me that I was planning to sell this year that's just sitting on a shelf. It just, how can you not be gun shy? You know what I mean? It just makes it so you are. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Hugo, let me know, brother. I'm always listening for opportunities. You know that, sir. So you guys have had almost 300 podcasts. Is that what you said?
Yeah. This week was 285.
What episode are we on, Derek? Are we on 13 or 14?
13, I think.
I think it's lucky number 13. And man, I can only tell you that is some dedication.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody gets into the podcast game thinking that it's going to be easy. But once you crank out 10, 15 episodes at an hour and a half a pop, and when you're trying to come up with stuff off the cuff and you're talking to some of the same people weekly, like me and Sprout, like the greatest thing about doing this show with Sprout is like he and I talk now more than we've ever talked. You know what I mean? Like we're super up to date on each other's lives, and we're like, we call each other on the phone and we still talk and all that type of stuff. But like he and I have had, like, our friendship has actually gotten stronger from doing the podcast, but it just staying consistent like that. Like our producer, Derek, was telling us some of the stats on podcasts. He's like, you've got to do this for a long time before you even know if you're successful. It's one of those things. It's just like being a musician. You got to go out there and earn your fans one by one.
Yeah.
You know that, right? I mean, but you guys have been fortunate to land some pretty big guests. You know what I mean? And do you notice the analytics for that show when you land those types of big guests, that your show goes boom and has this huge growth spurt when you land those guys? Do you notice that?
Well, I noticed those episodes.
Yeah.
Will be obviously more listened to, but as far as every once in a while, I'll see that, like, as far as like social media follows and that kind of thing, we'll usually have a little uptick right after a major guest.
Who's been your biggest guest? Who's like if someone asks you like, hey Trent, I heard you got this podcast, and they think you're full of shit, and then you're trying to prove to them that you're not full of shit and you do have a badass rock and metal podcast, when they ask you who your number one guests are, like who are some of the big ones? Why don't you tell our listeners the big dogs that you guys have had? Because I know you guys have had some awesome people on.
Well, I think the biggest one is Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
Obviously. And do what?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Say we've had Vivian Campbell from Def Leppard and Dio. We've had on Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses. We've had on Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. Clutch, Hatebreed, Shinedown.
Yeah, so like pretty much the who's who in rock and metal. You guys have had a lot of them in there. So now, who's been your most surprising? Like, who's been the coolest guest that you guys have had on? Like the person that surprised you the most, and like they were just a cool, down to earth person, but like, somebody that everybody knows.
I think, one that the lead singer for the Bullet Boys was we had it booked, and I was like, I've never liked the Bullet Boys, and so I started listening to their new stuff in advance of talking to him, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
And then I had always read throughout the years about how he's a dick, he's an asshole, and I know he's had a lot of legal problems and stuff. But when we sat down and talked to him, he was literally one of the nicest people we've talked to in the past 5 years. So, I mean, that one's probably the most surprising, and I think, I always say Shooter Jennings, which is funny because he's not a rock artist. It's probably my favorite interview we ever had.
Yeah.
Just because it went so well, and he's someone I've just really enjoyed for a long time. And so I would say that those two are probably the most surprising.
Have you ever had anybody that, if you don't feel comfortable saying it, you don't have to say it, but do you have ever had anybody that's just been a complete fucking dick and you're like, I just want this to be over?
Doyle from the Misfits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was a prick, huh?
Yeah, it was a shit show, man. It was I'll tell you the story real quick. We got there, and
take your time, brother. That's what we're here for.
Backing up, the publicist had emailed me and asked if it was audio or video, and I said we're audio only. So then we got to the venue and met his tour manager, and she's like, "Where's your camera at?" I'm like, "We're audio only." And she's like, "Okay." And she's like, "Hang out here for a few minutes." And then she came back and got us, and she just kept like kind of looking kind of dumbfounded about everything. And then we got back to his tour bus, and he was sitting there like putting on his boots and finishing everything. And he's like, where's your camera guy? And I'm like, we're audio only. And he's like, are you shitting me? Like, and the point is he had been spending like the last 30 minutes busting
getting ready to be on
getting
camera.
into his stage gear, and all the makeup and the whatever that crap he wears on his arms.
He's
and
a shit lord.
Yeah. So he was pissed off because he was like busting his ass to get ready for this interview when he didn't have to, I guess. And so we literally had like 15, 16 questions, and we went through every single question on our list in 4.5 minutes. Like, that's how short his answers were.
Yes. No, it was good. It was bad. You suck. I suck.
I think the longest we got was like a minute. I mean, like a sentence and a half, maybe, for one question. And then after all this, he's like, man, I thought this was going to be video. And at this point I was like, this is the 6th time or something someone said this. And I'm like, literally, I told your publicist and your tour manager that this is audio only multiple times. And as soon as I like said that to him, like stood up to him or whatever, he was like, oh man, okay, cool. Thanks for coming out. And he was all happy and shit.
He's like, oh, it was my bad. It was my, it was your people's bad. Why are you being a dick to me?
Yeah.
Well, he wanted to show you his abs and stuff. He wanted to show off.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, if I looked like that guy, I might want to show it off too. Probably not though. I don't think I could pull that look off. I don't think it's really me.
Well, the funny thing on top of all that is we ended up losing the interview because my computer crashed, my laptop at the time, and I lost that interview and an interview with someone you probably know, the singer for Seasons After.
Oh, with Chris?
No, the singer.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and we did both those around the same time, and then I lost both of them. So I'm like, well, we wanted to put up that 4.5 minute interview.
That would have been classic. I would have
loved
loved that. You should be like, this is groundbreaking stuff we got from Doyle today, guys. This is absolutely life-changing music business knowledge that you guys really need.
Yeah.
No. And just make him look like a complete douche canoe. I guess he kind of does. You do it to yourself, right? If you came on here and were doing that and being a dick, it'd be like, all right, well, you might think I'm a dick and that's why you're doing it to me. But like, I cannot imagine being interviewed by somebody. And like, I've been fortunate enough to come on your guys' show. You're not like antagonizing me with any of your questions or anything like that. Right. I just can't imagine, like, as an artist myself, I cannot freaking imagine someone caring enough about me to interview me and then me just being a complete shitlord to them, like Brian said. Like, I don't know, right. Maybe someday I'll get enough money to where I just am a shithead to everybody, but I just can't see it happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't understand how guys are like that. And like we were talking a little bit before the show, you never know. I mean, the guy you're interviewing might be sick. His girl might have just broke up with him. You know, something might have happened to a family member. You never know what they're going through. But I mean, I would think still, if you're going to do the interview, you'd try to be a little bit cordial, you know, maybe embellish a little bit, maybe try to share a little bit so the people that are fans of your music can actually learn something about you.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is the flip side of that. Like I mentioned Gene Simmons a minute ago. I mean, he's got a reputation of being a dick himself.
Right.
And when we talked to him, he was one of the nicer people we've ever talked to. You know, he sat down and offered us drinks and, you know, talked his, like, whoever it was, I don't know if it was his manager or what, had to come over and stop him because it was going longer than they wanted it to. And so, I mean, he
just warmed up to you. He just warmed up to you guys from the very beginning when you went in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had people that we might not have hit it off with as much as others, like especially people that you know, we know a little bit, you know, more from outside the show or whatever. It's pretty easy to get them on and talk, but sometimes we have people on that we've never met before. So we try to research them and everything like that before they come on the show. And I'm sure you guys do all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like, what are some of your metal and rock releases that are out right now? And is there anything new out that you're hearing? I know a lot of people are putting out a lot of new stuff. Is there anything badass out there that you're listening to that's brand new that you want to share with us or anything like that?
That's a good question.
You knew I was going to put you on the spot, right?
Yeah. I could think of several things that came out earlier in the year, but.
Well, it doesn't have to be current because I'm old and I don't even know what's new and what's old. You know what I mean? Like I sometimes I find out about a band's like Fit for an Autopsy. I was way late to the party on that band. And now I listen to them all the time and I realize they've had material out for like almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And I never even knew about them. And now I've listened to them and they're like one of my favorite bands. So there's so many things, like I'm getting the Netflix effect that we were talking about. I'm getting that on music because of Spotify. Like I'll be listening to a playlist and I'll hear something badass. I'm like, who's that? And then I dive into their catalog, and before I know it, I'm wearing a T-shirt, you know. But they might have had an album. They might have had music out for 10 years before I even heard it. You know what I mean? So you don't have to worry. Like if it's not the cutting edge of new, I'm definitely not going to be like nitpicking that because I don't know the cutting edge of new.
Well, I can say song-wise, Seven Dust released their cover of The Day I Tried to Live by Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Probably 2 months ago now.
Yeah.
And I've listened to that thing probably once a day since it came out.
Yeah.
That's just an amazing rendition.
It's very good.
And then they had their new single come out like a week or two ago, and it's really good as well.
Where are they playing that? I haven't heard that yet. Are they playing it on Octane or something, or is it just online? Or I guess I don't listen to radio a lot, so like it would have to be on Spotify for me to hear it probably.
Yeah, well, that's where I've listened to it mainly, and I've heard it once on Octane or Liquid Metal. I can't remember which one.
Okay.
But as far as full albums, like earlier this year, the New Testament album is probably my favorite album of the year.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to listen to it. I heard the song that they were playing on Liquid Metal, and I really liked it. It was fucking classic Testament. You know,
yeah.
It sounded like Testament, and that's what I'm going for.
Right. Yeah, and we, got to have Alex Skolnick on the podcast a few months ago.
Oh yeah,
really cool. And the new Body Count album is really good.
Is it? I've heard a few of those songs on Liquid Metal, but I haven't heard the whole record. For some reason I like Body Count, but I like Body Count in small doses.
Yeah.
I like two or three songs at a time, and I'm good with that. You know, I like them. I like their music, but I can't sit down and listen to a whole album of Body Count. And I mean, I used to be able to listen to the Cop Killer album when I was little because I just thought it was so.
Yeah, you thought you were risking.
I thought I was such a rebel for listening to it. But I remember I had that on a cassette tape that was dubbed. I had the Cop Killer album. I'd be in my room listening on the boombox, like trying to make sure my dad didn't hear me listen to Cop Killer. I remember I used to have to take back Rage Against the Machine records. My mom would find them. Public Enemy records, stuff like that. My mom would find it like, what are you listening to? This is garbage. Come on, Mom.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be a part of a movement in West Omaha.
Yeah, that happened to me, but it was a lot of, late 80s hard rock and heavy metal that my mom was like,
This is trash.
can't be listening to this Satan music.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about the metal thing. Like everybody thinks it's like devil music just because it's heavy, and I guess I just don't get that. Like that's not what what attracts you to heavy music. Like that doesn't attract like the death metal and the devil worshiping. Like, it's totally not what I'm listening to when I'm listening to metal. Like what is it about it that you love so much? Because you're for the most part a metal and rock guy, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I like stuff from all kinds of music except EDM.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can listen to EDM live in short doses.
If
but,
you're on acid or Molly or something.
right. Yeah, that helps. But other than that, I mean, I love a lot of old country and a lot of the newer country that's like not pop country, like Shooter Jennings or Tyler Childers or
Whitey Morgan,
Whitey Morgan.
78s, Cody
Yeah.
Jinks, Ward Davis, the real troubadours that are out there doing it now.
Yeah. And then, I love a lot of old pop music. But yeah, mainly for me, it's always been, classic rock and then 80s, like glam metal, I got really big into when I was young, and then thrash metal after that. And then it just kind of went pretty much.
You're a Satan worshiper that is really angry and violent.
Yeah.
You sacrifice animals. Got it. Okay, you're a godless heathen.
And I also love Poison. So
yeah. I see, dude. I never got in for some reason. I never got into the hair metal stuff. I think maybe it was just the age. Like maybe I wasn't mature enough to understand hair metal, or maybe it was because I had a sister at that time. I would have been 9 years old, so she was 12. So she was probably in her formative years, and I was probably listening to like Milli Vanilli, and Janet Jackson, and MC Hammer, and Crisscross, and shit like that, while you were listening to hair metal, and that explains a lot about me.
No. But it was kind of, I mean, whenever I was really getting into music around that age of like 11, 10 to 12, like a lot of people do, that was the late 80s. So that was what was big at the time. And then kind of from there is when I slowly moved into heavier stuff, but I never stopped loving, all the 80s bands.
It started for me, like, I think one of the first CDs I ever actually bought was Kill 'Em All from, Metallica's Kill 'Em All. But then at the same time, I think I bought REM Out of Time, and I think I bought a Public Enemy record, and I think I bought a Pearl, was Pearl Jam, they were probably starting right around 92-ish in that time frame, right?
Yeah, I think the first album came out in 91, I think.
Yeah, so around that, but around that time, I was buying, like, I had a really eclectic taste, and for the most part, I was gravitating more towards heavy stuff. But then when I got to my like early teens and things like that, I started getting into like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, Biggie, all that type of stuff. And that I had a phase with like Wu-Tang and all that type of stuff that lasted a super long time. So if hip hop was a huge part of that. I think maybe it was because my sister listened to a lot of the more bubblegummy type stuff,
Yeah.
And maybe I was looking for something with a little harder edge on it, and I would see like Yo MTV Raps, and I think I saw the Can't Trust It video, and I think that's what got me into Public Enemy. And I was seeing Metallica videos on Headbangers Ball and stuff like that. So I just had this weird taste, and I think it was probably the hip hop influence was probably from my sister, but I didn't want to listen to, whatever she was listening to at that time, Janet Jackson or whatever, or whatever it was, like the dance music or the pop music at the time.
Yeah.
I'm more of an 80s.
As different as, Public Enemy or Metallica are, and there's still a lot of similarities because Public Enemy has that edge to him that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whether it be with metal guitars or not, it's still got attitude and it's got aggression, just like a lot of heavy metal does.
And I think maybe it's like maybe the teen angst shit or whatever
Yeah.
you want to talk about. Like when I was like 12, 13 years old, like nobody understands me. Ooh. You know, and you're going through that time of your life where you're like in this really hormonal period and you're like a giraffe, you're all tall and your voice is cracking and you feel like no one understands you. And then somebody comes and reaches you with a message that's a little bit more aggressive or a little bit harder edge, and like as a guy at that age or whatever, that resonated with me, and I guess never grown out of it, you know, because I still my jam is heavy stuff. You know, I'm always looking for heavy stuff. I like rock music, I like pop music, I like some Latin music, I like country music. I mean, I like a little bit of everything, but my go-to still is, you know, that the heavier the better, that type of thing. So I guess I've never grown out of it, and I'm guessing now that I'm probably never going to grow out of it because I'm probably closer to death than birth now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel exactly the same way.
I just don't think it'll ever go away.
Yeah.
So if we do a Booze Bars Guitars 3, are you gonna wanna come along for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you tell the people about your experiences working on these big tours and stuff? And this is something cool about Trent that I think some people don't know, but Trent's had some pretty awesome experiences on the road and been a part of some pretty big festivals and stuff like that. Why don't you let the folks in on that a little bit?
Okay. Yeah, about 2 years ago, I guess. It was a little bit before the first Booze Bars and Guitars tour. I started working at music festivals, and you know, I did that, you know, a few of them throughout 2018, and then last year, 2019, I did a.
So when you're working them, what do they have you doing? Like describe your typical day when you're working, like, because you're working on big rock tours, or are they pop tours as well, or what kind of tours are they?
Well, as far as tours go, I've never really worked tours outside of you and Sprout.
You're talking the festivals.
Yeah, music festivals, or like, you know, I worked, you know, Metallica's last tour, I worked like 3 or 4 shows on it.
Okay.
You know, separate.
What's your day like? Talk us through your typical day working for Metallica.
Well, with Metallica, I worked as part of the VIP museum. They had a traveling museum on tour with them this year.
But that was the Hardwired to Self-Destruct tour.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw that in Wichita here, and it was freaking unreal. Right. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just as part of the VIP experience. And that's what I do with a lot of the, you know, one-off shows on that. Like when tours will come through Tulsa, Oklahoma City, I've worked a few in Wichita, Kansas City, Dallas, that kind of stuff. But when it comes to festivals, that all depends on the gig. Like I work freelance for several different companies, and some of them have been like artist transportation, and in other ones I've worked like campground management. I've worked operations, you know, where we just take care of everything outside the venue. That, you know, so it's kind of a wide ranging.
It's just whatever they need from you that day because that dude didn't show up or something, or it's just they have a roster of stuff. So you're hired as like an independent contractor, basically.
Yeah, but I meant like per festival, like one full festival, I'll be just doing artist transportation for.
Okay, I got you. You'll do that job the entire week.
Yeah. Then the next festival, I'll be managing in a campground, or the next one I'll be doing like outside operations.
So these huge festivals have like a hiring person or a hiring company that said hey, we need a crew of 50 guys. This is the skill set they need, and you're one of the guys that they call to say, hey, you know, whatever, Rocklahoma's coming through. We need a transportation guy. Can you do it?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And then they'll negotiate a contract with you or whatever, and that type of thing. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize is that there will be like a major, you know, the promoter, whoever's putting the show on, but these big festivals have like several companies under that'll just be, you know, you have like one company handling catering,
right?
One company handling transportation, one company handling, you know, the stage. So it kind of just depends on, you know, the contacts I've made over the past couple of years, like who will contact me about working, you know, VIP at this festival or working transportation at this festival. So
So like you can be successful at one, or they can be, or somebody can say, "Hey man, I really like that transportation guy you have this," and then next time you might get a bigger opportunity or a better opportunity. Like
Yeah.
you work your way up in that, and then you start to build a reputation, and you're like the guy for the VIP at the freaking festivals. That's like, is that something that you're working towards, or is it something that is it happening for you now, or is it? I guess I you're able to ascend in that field, obviously. And are you finding? I guess you're not doing any of that now, though, right?
Right. Well, yeah, obviously since all the festivals got nixed this year,
Yeah.
it's kind of that's kind of on hiatus as far as all
Do
that
you still
goes.
maintain contact with those companies, and are they telling you what's going on, or is it just completely in the dark about everything, and you're just waiting until things start back up?
Kind of both. There's been a couple of them that like I had a few shows or a few festivals booked, from April to July this year,
Yeah.
back in February, March. And then once they all started going down, whoever the contact was would usually email or call me and tell me what's up. But it was kind of stuff after once it got to May, we saw it coming for all the other ones. But outside of that, like currently, there's not a lot of communication. It's all just kind of what everybody else knows.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess what everybody else knows is probably nothing.
Right.
I don't know that anybody really knows what to expect here. If there's going to be a second wave, or if there's what's going to happen after the election.
Right.
What? Who knows with any of this crap? What's going to happen? I don't know about you, man, but I am sick to death of the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of being around it. I'm sick of the way it's making me navigate my music stuff,
Yeah.
and the way it's slowing me down. And it's like, man, I'm getting old here. I'm burning the prime oil of my life.
Yeah.
I'm writing a ton of music, and I'm still working hard, and I'm still focusing on the podcast and stuff like that. But it's just not like being out on the road and grinding and promoting new music and hustling merch and doing all that stuff. Like, I can hustle merch as much as I want on Facebook, but I can sell a shitload more merch in real life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's just at my level, that's just how I have to get people. And I'm just not able to get people the normal way that I want to get them. So it's like this frustrating thing for me. And I'm guessing it's probably a little bit the same for you. You started to get some pretty cool gigs on those festivals, I imagine. And then it's like, oh, well, you're taking the year off, big guy. Like even if you're counting on it, you're taking the year off, and it just stops your momentum, and I'm just tired of it. I'm freaking tired.
Yeah. It's like I had been thinking about doing this for a while, and it's something I've always had interest in. And then, one of my good friends, has been doing it for probably 10, 15 years. And he's the one that helped me get the first gig I got. And, for the past couple years, I was doing it. I was really enjoying everything. I'm finally, it's not like I wasn't doing things before that I enjoyed, but it was just something really, it didn't feel like work most of the time.
I can imagine.
And
It's surreal.
so, yeah. And then all of a sudden it's gone for now, but I mean, it could be worse. I'm luckier than a lot of people that do this kind of stuff because I still have a part-time job here, that same company I've been with for 15 years. Like I
Yeah.
worked full time up until I started doing this and then went part-time. And so that's kind of, even though I saved a lot of money the past year or so working that stuff, this kind of kept me afloat as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to be able to work through the whole thing, which has been a blessing, and I've been collecting a paycheck, but at the same time, like I've been taking a couple vacations here lately, and even vacation's a little bit weird.
yeah,
You're going through the airport with a mask on. You got to go through the restaurant with a mask on. You got to put your mask on to go in the hotel. You got to put your mask on to go in the elevator. You got to I mean, I understand why, whatever. I don't even want to get into the politics of wearing or not wearing it. That's not what we're here to do. But like, it's just every normal part of your routine is just completely disrupted. Aside from work, it's like, so I can go to work, but I can't go play a show at the Elbow Room. I can go to work, but I can't go train. I can go to work, but I can't go get tacos. I can go to work, but I can't, you know what
You can't do all the stuff that you would rather do than work, you know?
Yeah, in most cases, you know, I have my days at work just like everybody else does, but it's just such a strange time. And like, I'm really hoping that the music thing picks up and we can do another tour, you know, and continue on that, because I think now that me and Sprout have the podcast too, we've been talking about trying to do like a podcast and a show tour where we do like a live podcast after the show or before the show or something like that.
I think you guys talked about on the episode last week. I was going to ask you about that. Like, is that what you meant? Like just doing the podcast, or are you guys going to like,
no, I think what our idea would be to like just say, I don't even know if venues would be interested in it or anything like that. We're just brainstorming ways to, when we come back out, to be creative about it.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, you know, you get the Sprout and Dusty show, and you get the Sprout the Anti-Hero show and the Dusty Grant show. Like have us both play an acoustic set, or do like a songwriter song trade or something like that, where we trade songs back and forth, and then after or before the shows even have like a live podcast and have like a studio, you know, the people that are coming to the show get attendance to the podcast too, and just do live podcasts before every show or something like that.
No, that's
to just
cool.
interact and do Q&As and just make it fun, you know, a way for everybody to prime up for the party. It's just an idea, you know, it's something that we've been kicking around, and I think it would be fun if an artist or a podcast group that I liked that was also an artist came and played a show and was doing a podcast and a show, I would go.
Yeah.
You know, I would buy the tickets and I would participate. So maybe we can put that together if we can ever tour ever again.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep the van in prime shape so we can all embark across the Midwest on our fucking you know, on our tour across America. We need to conquer some more states. We need to conquer some more cities. We need to conquer some more food at some places, because, you know, we had protein sweats the first tour, and then we had tacos the second tour.
That's right.
And third, maybe like I don't know, Italian hot wings maybe.
You don't want to go like all veggie or like all vegan on the third one?
I don't think so, no. I don't think the three of us would last more than a day or two on that thing. Maybe we could set it up. Maybe we could set it up to where the tour is revolving around where we want to eat.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So be like, all right, we want to go eat ribs in Memphis. We want to head up to Nashville, have some hot wings. We want to, you know, maybe we could set it up that way, man. But if we do get to set it up, you can rest assured that we'll be in touch, Trent, because we've had so much fun on the road, man. I'm looking forward to someday getting back out there and doing it again. I hope you are too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would hope by, you know, what, the first tour in June, like if you shot for June of next year, I would hope that would be realistic.
I would hope so too. I'm interested to see what the booking landscape's going to be like when we come back, if the same people I used to book with even book anymore. You know, things have changed so much. Venues have changed so much. Venues have closed.
Right.
Who knows what the environment's going to be like, but I guess we cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah. Trent, before we wrap the show here, why don't you tell the people how they can get a hold of get a hold of you, and how they can check out the Thunder Underground podcast. Guys, please check out Trent's podcast. They've been in the game for a long time. They've been an inspiration to Sprout and I with what they've done with their podcast. So if you have the opportunity, please check it out. But Trent, tell the people how to check out Thunder Underground.
All right. Yeah, you can listen pretty much everywhere podcasts are heard: Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud. Tune in. You can tell Alexa to play Thunder Underground. Yeah. TheThunderUnderground.com, like it says there on the bottom of the screen, has all our socials on there, as well as you can listen to the podcast directly on there as well. But yeah, I mean, we try to have one a week. Every once in a while we skip a week, and every once in a while we do two a week. So
you're just like us. Life gets in the way sometimes. And I mean, the life of a podcaster is not super lucrative. It might be less lucrative than being a musician, actually.
Oh, I
didn't think that was possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had periods of the past 5 years where one of us or both of us would get burned out and we'd take 2 or 3 weeks off. But for the most part, we've been pretty consistent, especially
yeah, 285 episodes, man. I can see that's an impressive amount.
Yeah.
Me and Sprout are trying to keep it going and trying to keep it consistent. And what you guys have done is impressive. So kudos to you. Guys, please listen to the Thunder Underground podcast. Please connect with Trent. Trent's a great dude. Trent goes on tour with me and Sprout when we go. He's a close friend of us, close friend of the show. Please support his podcast. As always, this show is sponsored by the Big Fish Bail Bonds here in Wichita, Kansas. We're proudly sponsored by them. Thank you to Big Fish for sponsoring the show. They serve Wichita and Sedgwick County. You can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have your loved ones wake up at home. Big Fish Bail Bonds, because jail sucks. Trent, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on the show tonight, man. I know I got you on short notice because we had another guest fall through right at the last minute. At the 11th hour, you came in and saved the day, man. I am extremely grateful that you took the time to talk to me tonight, man. I appreciate you, and I will be talking to you soon, brother.
I appreciate you having me on. And I will also want to say that I think you and Sprout are naturals at this. Like, from the first episode, it just sounds like there was no learning curve. It was just kind of like, you're both natural talkers anyway, so it's probably pretty easy. But.
Yeah, you've heard me and Sprout talk quite a bit.
Right. 8 hours at a time. Yeah.
But man, I appreciate that, man, to hear you say that, because I know you've been in the game for a while. I greatly appreciate it, man, and I appreciate you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yo, fat kid, drop that beat.
Well, I don't think and I thought it, that's different. I said what I said and I meant it, or lamented. Words given weight without thought in a person, the way that I talk and the way that I ought to be able to pause and to say that the fault can be placed on my arm, to display for the assault, to disgrace in its arm. Pray for the day they could wait for the calm. You can't control the storm, only weather it, whether it's 5 weeks and 5 days of rain sideways, or scorched earth, search for death or water.